you will start.
Yes.
And then we have Finland with Mikko. I hope you're here. Yes, you are. I can see your name. And then it's me, myself, who will present the Swedish case. And then Denmark by Simon, who had problems. I hope they will fix it. And I don't know if they have. Otherwise, they have about an hour to fix it until their presentation. We will have a short break, and then we will take questions for the cases after all of the presentations, because I think a lot of questions will be interesting if we hear the answers from all the case studies probably. But of course, you can ask questions directly to a specific case study as well. And we have some general questions from the team as well to the audience. But with that, I will hand over to Janusz to present the Polish
Thank
case.
You very much. Okay, so Sandis, could you please assume?
Yes.
So let me introduce myself. I'm representing Agricultural Advisory Center in Brwinów. We are a sort of, if you want, think tank for Polish Public Advisory Service. So our role is generally to deliver training for advisors and additionally to work curriculum, national curriculum. That's why we are here. That's why we are here in this project. Sandis, could you please next slide? So just because our case, it's not specific, but it's to a large extent strongly located in our institutional framework. So I would say a precondition for our activities. So just brief information. We have publicly agriculture advisory service, over 3,500 advisors across Poland, is financed by public resources, plus additionally each center earn money for providing services for farmers. It depends on the case, but in the best, something like 50% from public resources, 50% from additional for income from service, but it's the best. In others, as proportion it's much worse. And we have a set of our advisors work as a set of specialization: agri-environmental, farm management, plant production, and so on and so forth. What is important? None of specialization is focusing on water as individual topic. Water was perceived as something like matter of course, like a matter of course, obvious source of agricultural production. Next one, please, Sandy, please. Advisory, and next one, next important aspect is that our advisors, before we start our activities, focus on three aspects: farm profitability, meeting by farmers all requirements, and that's all. That's what their main area of their activities. Dominant methodology, this is important from our discussion as we discuss about catchment area. Let's say throughout last 20 years of something, our advisors focus on supporting individual farmers. So usually they work face to face with farmers and much less with group of farmers, except training conditions, something like to introduce new topic, yes, but otherwise they work face to face with farmer, which created some additional problem for us. And as you see, real needs with group of farmers as catchment, semi-catchment level. That's, again, it wasn't perceived as a special task for the advisors. It's another, if you want, layer of our starting point. Next one, please. Next one, just to simply, this is the first one. It's obvious, very poor appreciation of role of water. While this is just to give you some general information. what is really important, it's when we started our project, well, the mode of operation of our public advisory service start to change from individual work with farmers toward group advisory. And now they are talking about coaching approach. It is, of course, it's generated from the EU Commission idea. And so we are part of wider process. That's our advisors for the time being working on a face-to-face basis. Now the general idea is to move to wider level, to work with farmers on different level using different approaches. Next one, please, Sandis. Current situation, what we achieved under the project. First of all, we developed a scope of new specialization. So for that, we started from 0 point at the beginning of our intervention, and we developed completely new specialization of water advisors built on 2 assumptions. First of all, we have, as we started to work at an existing database of advisors, we have to base on their existing knowledge. We couldn't start to introduce something completely new, which is completely alien for them. We have to strongly relate to build their skills by step approach. And another thing which was very strongly emphasized by the advisors themselves, they don't expect to be, they didn't want to know everything. They want to be just information broker. So for us, a big challenge, how to develop their skills. That would be brokers. They will have access to information. They know how to provide information, where is the information, but not necessarily to be expert on all topics, which seems obvious, but it was really topic raised in many occasions by our advisors. What we achieved so far, between September 2020 and November 2021, which is this month, next month, we'll have another training. We'll have 70 advisors trained under WaterDrive project, which is, and it's interesting because in some case, in some voivodeship, we have bigger demand, in other is less interest. They have advisors are less interested in the training. It's closely related to the problem with water supply in their area. In February 2021, we submitted formal request for the Ministry of Agriculture to include new specialization as one of national curriculum for agriculture advisors. And for the time being, we don't have any clear feedback how it would work, but there are 2 ways, there are 2 possible ways. First, it would be new type of specialization, which would be called water advisors. Another, it would be sub-specialization under, for instance, agri-environmental expert, but it's just technicalities. As a matter of fact, we have general approval for the ministry, from the ministry to go ahead. Why it is taking so long? Because the general idea is to be part of the wider process of programming for new RDP 2021, whatever would be the final shape of program. Next slide, please, Sandis. And now key issues. First of all, as I told you, we are operating in clear institutional framework, which made our operational easier in the sense that we didn't consider how to find it, how to locate it. We know that we have over 3,500 advisors, let's say over 3,000 local advisors. They have their offices, their facilities. So we didn't care about that. So advantage, not starting from the scratch. And of course, building on their high professional level, just to start, just as I told before, incremental approach, built on their skills. Disadvantage, that is interesting, because they focus, I mean, particularly the youngest one, I mean, younger since something who joined advisory 20 years ago, which is, well, let's call it younger. They got so used to work on application basis or on meeting regulation. They were not necessarily forced to see on wider topics, because farmers, it's not that didn't want, no, those farmers were not interested in expecting farmers, in the advisors, to provide any additional advisors. So that's what disadvantage, because we have to change approach both advisors and farmers themselves. So it's not what it wasn't so easy, and now we are still in the process. Next ones, please. Task. So how we define task for new services? First of all, classical standard, what they did before, to have in-depth knowledge on legal regulation. So first of all, they have to update the information, or rather we as a training organization, we have to provide them update information, all news, all changes, and this sort of stuff. Next one, to have practical updated information source of funding, which is again obvious. It's our main instrument to facilitate changes in agriculture, external financial resources. And the third, to have wider holistic understanding of water circulation at farm household level. That was really the most difficult. I will return to the topic when I will say about training. Standis, could you please next one? So why? So that's our main challenge. So first of all, what was the role of advisors? To facilitate more rational water management in view of farm profitability, which is obvious from farmer point of view. Meeting all regulation requirements, the same. Traditional role of advisors in Poland for the last 20 years. But the third one, to change farmers' behavior toward more rational utilization of limited water resources. So we faced here an interesting trade-off, which you have at the bottom of slide, that farmers perceived something like minimalistic approach. That's okay. They want to focus on profit, but not necessarily adding additional task for them in terms of water management. Particularly water, for quite a long time in Poland was very cheap, so they didn't have any economical incentives to change their behavior. So now for our advisors, for our water advisors, is interesting trade-off. Something like still focusing on profitability and meeting wider public goals, water pollution, and so forth, which is a matter of fact topic of our project. But at the same time, to try to increase awareness of farmers in soft way, something like to convince them that if you do, if you apply something which is not necessarily required by regulations, you can have, let's say, better water utilization at home base and household level, or maybe with just limited investment, you can have your own water reservoir at your farm level. But again, if we take into account that farmers are really quite busy, so it's and now particularly they are facing all those changes, regulatory changes, and so forth. That's I suspect would be, and the same that is the same opinion of our advisors. That is the main challenge for advisors, just step by step, not big jump, just step by step. And of course, the last one, facilitate new investment at farm level. In our Polish cases, it was a bit difficult because project was implemented, and let's say has been implemented rather, in stage when which we've been in process of substantial institutional changes, and a bit lack of clear strategic view from our policymakers what they want to achieve in water management in rural areas. So that's in agriculture. So that's created quite a bit of task for us. So that's why we decided, okay, we still don't know what will be the final shape of funding. So let's build basis. advisors, properly trained advisors, training program, and so forth. And after that, they can add additional skills regarding funding, which at the end of the day is their standard routine job. So it's nothing unusual for them. And next one, please. And as exactly just to finalize what I said before, main challenge project construction, balance between general knowledge and requirement of advisors. I'm not sure, I've seen on the list one of our lectures of our training, and we always, while working on program, our main task was how to transfer this general knowledge about water management into more technical, operational information, which might be useful for advisors at their day-to-day work. And honestly speaking, we are still struggling to find proper balance. And next one, the water advisors shall sorry, Sandis. Water advisors shall act as information broker, not taking task of over-relevant institutions, which again require good cooperation between institutions. But in our case, when we in face of still taking new rule of cooperation, which is still a bit difficult. And that's this just to emphasize very strongly, because it's key message that advisors shall be in the position to provide as much practically useful information for farmers. So it's main challenge for us how to make this compromise. We have general expert, and after that, what kind of instrument we shall provide to advisor. That they will be in the position to provide practical information, which is very useful for farmers, that will be useful for in terms of farm resources management. That's again, we are still struggling with this issue. Next one, please. And another key issue, this is catchment level versus individual farmers. As in other countries, you operated, and let's say, according to my understanding, on catchment level. In our case, we have two limitations. First of all, they focus, as I told before, on working individual farmers, particularly after we joined Europe, this project development, this sort of stuff. So now, when we wanted farmers to work, when we wanted advisors to work in catchment area, they say, okay, but how we can make farmers working together? It's not so easy. There is no tradition. They are not so interesting, not so willing to cooperate. Many of them don't see mutual relationship between themselves. So one of the options is to introduce effective instrument facilitating cooperation between all users at catchment area, somehow enforcing by, it's top-down policy, enforcing cooperation between partner at catchment or semi-catchment level, let's say 5-10 farms. But without this incentive, I suspect our advisors would be in a rather difficult position. And the last one, group advisory versus individual advisory service provision. As again, it's sort of dominant approach among our advisors. And now, if we say you have to arrange farmers on catchment level, they say, well, it's not so easy, it's difficult. So that's why, as a part of WaterDrive project, we deliver to training on Living Club to facilitate their skills development and the soft skills development. To answer a basic question, how to involve other partners, which maybe are not known for advisors, but to involve them in some common activities. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. And sorry, I will have to leave around 10 o'clock for, let's say, other reasons. So maybe another, and maybe it will be better if I answer any question right now, not after that, because I will try to join, but I'm not sure whether it's possible.
There was
I think that sounds good
from Omra in the chat room. I confuse between advisor and officer from role perspective.
It's the same. It's the same because officer, it's a catchment officer. In our case, it's advisors. It's advisor. It's just different terminology. We are using in Poland we are using advisor, agriculture advisors, like in catchment officer. So it's exactly the same concept.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe
I have a question.
Else?
I have a question to
Janus.
Yes. Janus, I know you are fighting with drought in Poland.
Yes.
And then you are training these advisors. What is the most important measure you think the advisors or water advisors should start up with? Where can you get the funding? Okay. What kind of measure will you start up with? It's very important to decide when you're an advisor. You have to decide what to do. That is. So what have you decided in Poland to do?
Well, that's the main point. There's no clear decision. So that's why our approach is simple to facilitate small investment, because as we don't clear strategic policy from our policymakers. So okay, we can wait another year, 2 years, just wasting time. So we rather facilitate advisors' thinkings, just focus on something small, which are already resources from our agency, and from Polish Water, from other resources. You can apply for this small investment. Don't wait, just for a small reservoir at farm level. Just something very cheap, like to collect rainwater. So let's start from these facts, just to raise awareness and to show farmers, okay, you for €1,000 you can collect rainwater and you can use it for whatever purposes at your farm. And after that, when we will have a clear perspective, it will be much easier to say, okay, we have bases, we have trained farm advisors, and just to provide them training about new funding. That's easy, much easier than in current situation.
Okay.
There is also some questions, Janusz, from Peter.
Yeah.
Are the advisors organized under one authority, or is the organization very fragmented? In example, is there any one channel through which you can reach all advisors?
Yes. So first, there's Minister of Agriculture, which is responsible for public advisory. We are, as a CDR, as a Agriculture Advisory Center, as a training center. A part of that, we have 16 formally independent regional centers managing their own network of advisors. But the system operates in very flexible and effective cooperation between us. So basically, we provide training. So we collect that. Let's give you example of water advisors. We have approval from the ministry. We developed training material for water advisors, and after we'll be given resources from the ministry to deliver training for advisors. So it's decentralized in the sense of day-to-day operation, but in terms of development, training capacity is quite effective way, because just the ministerial decision. Yes, we want this new type of advisor. You have resources. You can provide training for advisors. And it works like that many times before, like for agri-environmental, whatever is new topic, we are just giving information from ministry to provide training for advisors, and we are doing, or from training, or from just some social media, or from publication whatsoever.
And there's also a follow-up question from Peter. How are the advisors funded?
They advise from public resources, so that is a bit. So advisors is paid. You mean in terms of a regional center, they are paid by taxpayer, basically. So usually it is, let's say, 50–60% is by taxpayer, but a part of that, according to law, they can provide services for farmers for a special amount of money, and that's its additional source of income. And the most, let's say, commercially oriented regional centers, according to my information, I think 2 years ago, had over 60% of the let's call it income from commercial activity and just 40% of public resources. In other cases, it's rather dominance of public resources, but it's not just matter of skills of managerial skills of advisor center is equally important where they are located. If they are located in strong agricultural area, they got stronger market. In other part like Małopolska, south part of Poland, when farms are smaller, it's much likely they can get enough money comparing to other regions.
There are also two more questions. One from
Yes.
Sirka.
Yes.
You have trained 70 water advisors. Who has given the You have trained 70
Yes.
water advisors. Who
Yes.
has given training? Is it more focused on water quantity than quality?
Oh, it's more on not quality. It's rather on more overall topic to understand relationship, circulation of water in farming, in agriculture. It means like that's why that is our main challenge. That's our topic was to provide more general information about water management, general rules, water circulation, land, and so forth. And after that, to work out clear instrument for advisors to have instrument for themselves, for them to work with advisors. So it's not quantity or quality. It's rather better understanding of water management at farm level.
Also, one question from Omran. Are advisors in charge of applying the laws and reporting to higher level what is happening on the ground?
No. Advisors, our advisors working for farmers. So they are obliged to provide special report, but it's strict line just to ensure that advisors are trusted. We have two type of public services: controlling, monitoring, which can control, monitor farmers, and advisors who work for farmers, and it's not. And they shouldn't be perceived by farmers as a sort of external police to control their activity. So another service is collect information, they control farmers, but not advisor. That's clear division.
Okay, maybe the last question, because we are already 10 minutes over the program. Is it possible to say if advisor mainly work with the smaller or with the larger farmers?
I would say the medium, something like between over 15 hectares up to 150, maybe 200. Simple. Large farmers tend to use more commercial services, purely commercial services, not necessarily public. Smaller subsistence farmers are just, farming is not their main line of business. So we have group of farmers. It depends on regional type of production, 15 up to 200-300. That is main group of clients for our advisory service. And in Poland and Sweden, well, first of all, I don't have much information about Swedish, but I would say first of all, definitely different. Definitely different institutional structure, and I suspect, according to my understanding, what I gain understanding from WaterDrive experiences, substantial cultural difference. That's in Sweden, in Denmark, you are more easy to cooperate. Maybe I'm just about too idealistic. While in our case, it's some cultural barrier in terms of cooperation between people. It's why it is confirmed by various social research. So I suspect that's the main, and of course this methodological issue. less individual work, less group work, this sort of stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it was a good couple of questions for clarifications there, and also since you have to leave, it was good that we had time to ask the questions we wanted. And as I can see in the chat, there are other Polish people here. If something comes up, maybe they can answer it in the final discussion as well. That's
exactly.
Nice. Good. Then we will move forward to the Finnish case. And Mikko.
Hello everyone. My name is Mikko Ortamala and I work as a planner in a drainage center of soil in Finland. And today I'm going to tell you more about this Finnish catchment theme idea. At first, I'm going to show you my little presentation and say a few words about this Finnish new catchment theme idea. And after this, we're going to see our new video we have produced in this WaterDrive project. Can you send this, share the presentation? Okay, thank you. Actually, we can move to next slide, please. The repetition is the mother of learning. I like to show you once again this catchment area activity model. This is the model how we start to improve these catchment area rehabilitations regionally in Finland in many other projects. And we have done with the authorities this risk area service. And the targeting, this presentation is more about this targeting part and this cooperation work. And this presentation is more about this practical level. This not so much about this catchment officer, how it should be organized in Finland. There's a lot of discussions about that, but this presentation is more about this holistic, organized cooperation. And yeah, we can go to the, I'd like to say more about this catchment rehabilitation model, that there's a different steps that we go very organized way from risk area surveys, from targeting to the activate the landowners, and then we do the field measurements, and after that the planning and the implementation part, and finally the maintenance. And next slide, please. And these catchment themes in Finland, like I said, this is not so much about the catchment officers. There is a different discussions with different parts about that, but this is more practical level idea how this coordination activity should be created in Finland, and we think that it should be not created by just one person or organization. Is that it should be organized with very different experts from different organizations. And this activity, it should be cross-sectoral, and that's how we can be sure that every interests are taken into account. And these activities should be long-term processes rather than individual short-term projects. And what the objectives are is to create long-term cross-sectoral stakeholder work, to bring together these different stakeholders at the local level, and also create a link between the authorities and the local level. And that's how we can ensure the this holistic water management worked, and create effective cooperation groups between these different experts. And that's how we think it's the key work really for this holistic way. We have lots of discussions in Finland what this holistic method really means. But for me, it means the cooperation between different experts, cross-sectional way, and of course to combine the economics and also the water protection and the biodiversity. Next slide, please. And our video, this Finnish video, we have combined together these different experts, and we have done this video with the cooperation between Fishery Center of Häme region, a municipality of Porvoo, Baltic Sea Action Group, and also the Farmers Advisory Organization Pro Agria Southern Finland and the Finnish Environmental Institute. We have planned this video together, but these organizations are not acting on the video, but we have done the cooperation together. And the cooperation, I have written this on this slide that it's all about the cooperation, and we think that that's the thing how we can really make things holistic way. And we have make this video together with a famous Finnish YouTube channel, Kalastuskanava. It means a fishing channel. And Mika is going to tell you more about the video. At the start, Mika tells you about what's the point of this video, and then we heard different experts and the different points of view what is connected to water. You can start the video, Sandis, please.
Yes.
Tässä videossa käsitellään vesiluontoa ja vesitaloutta. Mukana on monia eri alan asiantuntijoita, mitkä kertoo, miten saadaan yhteensovitettua vesihallintaan liittyviä asioita. Tämä videon nimi Yhteisen vesien äärellä viittaa siihen, että meillä on olemassa niin monia eri intressiryhmiä, mitkä liittyy tähän vesitalouteen, mutta kaikilla niillä on sitten yhteinen tavoite. Ja se tavoite on se, että tulevaisuudessa niin vesiluonnon tila olisi nykyistä parempi. Videossa on 3 erilaista kokonaisuutta, mitä tulee tähän vesien hallintaan ja sitten näihin toimenpiteisiin, mitä siellä voidaan tehdä. Ja siellä on aiheena kalatalous, yhdyskuntarakentaminen ja tuotanto. Aloitetaan kaloista ja hypätään sitten syvemmälle aiheeseen.
Olisi tarkoitus lähteä koekalastamaan. Eli sähkökoe kalastamaan, ja laitteet näkyy tuossa Markon selässä. Ja tietysti kuulostaa vähän hurjalta, kun sähkökoe kalastamaan, että johdetaan tonne sähköä veteen, mutta se on niille kaloille kyllä turvallista, että hetkellisesti taintuu ja pyritään saamaan tuosta nyt sitten kalat kiinni, mitä tuossa koskialueella on, ainakin suurin piirtein. Me ollaan Padasjoen reitillä ja Vierunkoskella. Eli tämmöinen aika upea miljöö täällä Vierunkoskella. Eli tässä on ollut vanha ruukki aikoinaan ja siitä näkyy tuossa yläosassa noi pato vielä jäljellä, minkä yhteyteen sitten piivoona rakennettiin kalatie yhteen patoaukoista. Noille muille yläpuolen koskialueille niin käytännössä tämä reitti on nyt sitten vapaa. Ja mikä tästä tekee myös historiallisen, niin nämä 2 reitin kalatietä on avannut myös vesistöyhteyden Kokemäenjoen vesistöön. Eli nyt kun se koekalastetaan, niin toi anodihaavi laittaa tuonne sähköä tuonne veteen ja se tainuttaa sitten näitä kaloja. Ja ne kalat uituta anodihaavia kohti, millä ne ohjataan sitten haaviin. Ja nyt tulikin ensimmäiset kalat, eli 2 kappaletta särkiäkin. Vuodesta 2007 ollaan viety tätä eteenpäin. Eli pitkä prosessi. Ja tässä on voimalaitostoimintaa, ruukkitoimintaa ja myös sitten uittoja harjoitettu. Ja varmaan niin kuin Suomessa niin suuri osa meidän virtavesistä on nimenomaan uittoja varten aikoinaan perattu. Ja niitä tässä nyt on sitten yritetty kunnostaa viime vuosikymmeninä jälleen lähemmäs luonnontilaa. Tämä kohde on kunnostettu koneellisesti ja kunnostus tapahtuu viime syksynä. Eli kunnostuksen yhteydessä tähän perattuun koskeen tehtiin nyt taimenille niin lisääntymispoikas kuin sitten myös vanhemmille ikäluokalla niin uusia alueita. Ja mikä tärkeintä, niin toi nousueste ohitettiin rakentamalla kalatie yhteen noista patoluukuista. Eli suojeltu pato kyseessä, niin purkaminen ei tullut kyseeseen, vaan jouduttiin tekemään sitten kalatien ratkaisu tässä. Kivet on tässä vielä hyvin sammallista, vapaata, hyvin vaaleita. Eli tänne käytännössä kaikki kivimateriaali jouduttiin tuomaan muualta, mikä nostaa tietysti hurjasti niitä kustannuksia, kun ei ole semmoista penkkakiveä käytössä tässä rannoilla. Niin jos tästä laskee sitä kustannusta, mikä tämän kohteen kunnostamiseen on mennyt suunnittelusta lähtien itse siihen toteuttamiseen, niin budjetti pyörii tuolla tässä tapauksessa tuossa 20 000 euron kieppeillä. Eli tuolta on tuo rasvaivä leikattu pois, mikä lain mukaan pitää 1-vuotiaana, jos istutetaan kalat, niin siitä eteenpäin, niin leikata tuo rasvaivä pois. Niin. Eli sillä me nyt tunnistetaan sitten, että onko se luonnossa syntyneitä vai sitten istutettu. Eli tälläkin reitillä on tämmöinen pitkäaikainen tavoite, että me saataisiin sitä vahvistettua tässä vaelluspoikasten määrä ja jokeen nousevien emojen määrä, että tämä lähtisi pyörimään luontaisesti myös tulevaisuudessa. Et monesti sitten niin kuin kunnostuksen saavuttava hyöty, niin se pitäisi tulla niin kuin heti monen mielestä, mutta niin se realistinen aikamäärä on varmaan tuommoinen 5-10 vuotta, kun saavutetaan niin kuin isompia hyötyjä. Varsinkin tämmöisissä kohteissa, missä kunnostus on ihan totaalinen ja osittain kalakantaa joudutaan vielä sinne kotiutaan niin taimenen osalta.
Kyllähän tämä ilmastonmuutos on semmoinen, mikä on ollut haasteita. Eli käytännössä katsoen heinä-elokuussa niin virtavesistä on erittäin pienet virtaamat, veden lämpötilat on ollut korkeita. Ja jos esimerkiksi tämmöisiä erityiskalastuskohteita miettii, niin monet on menossa kalastuskieltoon juuri sen takia, että se lämpötila nousee yli 22 asteen. Ja nyt kun näitä virtavesiä on inventoitu esimerkiksi Pirkanmaan alueella, niin isotkin jokivesistöt on melkein mennyt kuiviksi. Ja se aiheuttaa sitten taimenen elinkierrolle haasteita. Pohjavesivaikutteisissa puroissa on semmoisia olosuhteita, että taimen on siellä pystynyt säilymään ja elämään. Se tarkoittaa sitä, että harjualueella niin annetaan tietyn vesi suotautuu maakerrosten läpitte, se muodostuu pohjavedeksi maaperää ja sitten se pikkuhiljaa pulppua näihin pieniin pohjavesivaikutteisiin puroihin. Ja silloin nämä olosuhteet myös heinä-elokuussa on hyviä taimenta ajatellen. Vesi on kylmää, happirikasta ja taimenet pystyy näissä ääriolosuhteissakin lisääntymään ja elämään. Ja näiden pohjavesivaikutteisten purojen säilyttäminen on tulevaisuudessa se tavoite, että meidän pitäisi pitää niistä huolta ja niin, että vesi riittää myös luonnolle, ettei kaikkea käytetä yhteiskunnan veden ottamiseen.
Rankkasateiden lisääntymisen myötä hulevedet on otettava paremmin huomioon. Ihan kaavoituksesta lähtien on tulvamitoitukset huomioitu, hulevesien laskuojat, niiden mitoitukset, viivytykset, imeyttämiset. Se on iso paketti, joka on huomioitava kaavoituksesta ihan sinne lopulliseen maankäyttöön saakka. Viivytyksessä tietysti hienoaineesta saadaan ja ravinteita vähennettyä, mutta lisäksi Porvoon kaupungilla on ollut käytössä näitä biohiilisuodatuspatorakenteita ja lisäksi myöskin kalkkikivipatorakenteita ja näillä saadaan sitten veden laatua paremmaksi siellä alajuoksulla. Et esimerkiksi biohiilirakenne suodattaa ravinteita ja silloin alapuolisessa järvessä ei ole enää niin suurta riskiä ravinnekuormitukselle ja sinileväesiintymille. Kalkkikivipatorakenne me ollaan urakoitsijan kanssa suunniteltu Kulloon yritysalueelle, josta tulee uusi kiertotalouspuisto tuonne Kilpilahden yritysalueen läheisyyteen.
Konkreettisia toimenpiteitä, mitä me siellä tehtiin, niin me siihen päälaskuojaan, joka sieltä hankkeelta pois johtaa, niin me rakennettiin sellainen kalkkikivistä tehty pato, johon sisään asennettiin suodatinkangas, eli sen padolla on niin kuin 2 toimintaperiaatetta, eli suodatinkangas hidastaa veden virtaavuuksia siellä ojauomassa, ja mikä mahdollistaa sitten kiintoaineksen laskeutumisen ja sen vesien selkeytymisen, sekä sitten lisäksi se kalkkikivi itsessään niin, mahdollistaa sen alueella olevien sulfidimaiden aiheuttama vesien happamoitumisen. Se neutralisoi niitä happamia vesiä sieltä, jolloin sitten vedet, jotka johtuu pois sieltä urakka-alueelta, niin on mahdollisimman lähellä niin kuin sitten nykytilaista. Sitten me mitataan joka päivä pH:ta sieltä niin kuin työmaan puolelta ja työmaan alapuolelta ja sitten raportoidaan sitä tilaajalle ja niistä tuloksista todistaa sen, että se kalkkikivipato toimii. Eli kalkkikivipadon työmaan puolella on niin kuin happamampaa vettä kuin siellä alapuolella.
Hulevedet on niin perinteisesti putkitettu maan alle. Tavoitteena on nyt kaupungilla eriyttää hulevesiverkostoa jätevesiverkostosta, jolloin nämä rankkasadepiikit ei kuormita tätä vanhaa infraa enää niin paljon ja vesien hallinta paranee. Ja lisäksi tavoitteena on lisätä avouomia ja sitä kautta tuoda ympäristöön luonnon monimuotoisuutta, kaupunkiympäristöön nimenomaan.
Maataloussektorin tavoitteena on kotimainen, kestävin menetelmin toteutettu ruoantuotanto, jonka keskiössä on kokonaisvaltainen vesienhallinta. Kokonaisvaltainen vesienhallinta pitää sisällään perus- ja paikalliskuivatuksen sekä valumavesien hallinnan toimenpidekokonaisuuden ja sovittaa yhteen vesienhoidon, luonnon monimuotoisuuden, kalatalouden sekä yhdyskuntarakentamisen tarpeet.
Parhaimmillaan ratkaisut löytyy sieltä, missä saadaan hyötyjä sekä maatalouden tuottavuudelle, ympäristölle, vesistölle ja ilmastolle.
Suomen kasvuolosuhteissa tarvitsemme kuivatusta runsaan sadannan vuoksi. Toimiva peruskuivatus valtaojatasolla mahdollistaa toimivan paikalliskuivatuksen eli salaojituksen, joka puolestaan mahdollistaa maan rakenteen kunnossapidon toimenpiteet. Hyvä maan rakenne, kasvukunto ja toimiva vesitalous ovat perusedellytyksiä huuhtouman vähentämiselle ja toisaalta myös tehokkaalle viljelylle. Maan rakenteen ja vesitalouden toimiessa hyvin, vesi imeytyy huokoiseen maahan ja ravinteet sitoutuvat kasvien käyttöön. Toimimaton kuivatus ja maaperän tiivistyminen puolestaan lisäävät ravinteiden ja kiintoaineksen huuhtoumaa. Märkien ja tiivistyneiden peltojen viljely, muokkaus ja lannoittaminen ovat haitallisia sekä veden laadun että tuotannon näkökulmista. Hyvä kasvukunto tukee myös hiilensidontaa, millä on positiivisia ilmastovaikutuksia.
No, hiilen sidonnastahan on nyt puhuttu paljon ja hiiliviljelystäkin, mutta pitää muistaa, että viljelijän ensisijainen tavoite on kuitenkin viljellä ruokaa ihmisille tai nurmea karjalle, eikä hiiltä. Hiilen sidonta on sivutuote siitä, kun me huolehditaan pellon kasvukunnosta ja myöskin vesitaloudesta, että maaperän hiilipitoisuudella, organisen aineksen määrällä, käytännössä multavuudella on suora yhteys maan veden pidätyskykyyn ja kykyyn säädellä ja puskuroida erilaisia sään ääri-ilmiöitä, kuten märkyyttä tai tulvia tai kuivuutta. Ja sitä kautta hiiltä sitova viljely myös edesauttaa pellon tuottavuutta ja riskinsietokykyä.
Luonnonmukaisen peruskuivatuksen toimenpiteillä tarkoitetaan yleisesti tulvatasanteen tai kaksitasouoman rakentamista. Tulvatasanteen tarkoituksena on sitoa ja pidättää ojassa kulkevia ravinteita ja kiintoainesta hidastuneen virtausnopeuden ja tasanteelle muodostuvan kasvillisuuden avulla. Tulvatasanteen kasvillisuudella mukaillaan rantakasvillisuutta. Kosteikoilla, laskeutusaltailla ja pohjapadoilla voidaan sopivissa paikoissa pidättää jo ojauomastoon päässeitä ravinteita ja maa-ainesta. Monivaikutteiset kosteikkorakenteet tarjoavat elinympäristön monille lintu-, nisäkäs-, hyönteis- ja kasvilajeille.
Yhteenvetona voidaan todeta, että on tärkeää lisätä sitä viipymää siellä valuma-alueella, eli niissä joissa ja puroissa ja ojissa ja myös siellä kosteikolla. Tämä kaikki hyödyttää sitten kaloja ja sitä luontoa, mikä on niiden vesien äärellä, plus sitten maatalous ja taajama-asutus hyötyy tästä myös. Kaikkia näitä videossa käsiteltyjä toimenpiteitä ei voida tietenkään joka paikassa tehdä, koska siihen liittyy sitten kustannukset, sitten maankäyttö ja sitten korkeussuhteet, mitkä siellä alueella vallitsee. Vesiluontoa hyödyntää niin moni eri intressiryhmä, että se on pakko löytää yhteistyö näiden ryhmien välillä. Se on ainoa tie saada meille tulevaisuudessa parempi vesitalous ja vesiluonto. Video on tehty yhteistyössä seuraavien kumppaneiden kanssa. Hämeen kalatalouskeskus, Porvoon kaupunki, Etelä-Suomen salaojakeskus, Kokemäenjoen vesistön vesiensuojeluyhdistys ry, Baltic Sea Action Group, Suomen ympäristökeskus, ProAgria Etelä-Suomi ry, Louhintahiekka Oy, Suomen maastokuvaus Oy.
Is there time for questions?
I think we can, if there are some questions for clarification, if anyone has them. Otherwise, the more general question we will save for after all the presentations.
Sirkka has one question. For this, Sirkka asked, is there conflicts between different opinions in these rehabilitation areas, for example, in the agricultural or forestry? We think that all these rehabilitation projects, they have different kinds of there's a point for this rehabilitation, and it's normally it's a land use. And in Finland, because we have lots of rains and water, we need drainage, and everybody can understand that without the drainage, we can do agricultural measures or forestry or in the urban areas these activities and so on. And we try to explain it the best possible way to the different stakeholders. What's the point in this rehabilitation? And of course, between this cooperation between different experts, we can take account that every opinion is important, and that we can get best possible the most holistic of this project as possible. And that's the point. And of course, we have different rights in a different rehabilitation projects. We need administration, permission, we have a water law, and so on.
There is some question from Reinhold, I can see, concerning organization of the teams, who is leading, heading, or steering the team, primus inter pares or open?
Yeah, this discussion is in Finland. We are discussing about this right now, and there is a different kinds of examples of different ways to handle this, but there is no any just the one right way to do it at this point. But we have many projects to think about it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the nice film. So then, before the break, I will present then the Swedish case, and we'll see if I can share screen. Oops. Oh no. It's always tricky with the if you see the other version. Does anyone know how to get rid of that? I saw that you saw like the notes.
You can just put it in full screen. No?
I did, but if I do it, you can see this version.
No, it's
like
okay
the
for
next
us.
picture.
It's okay, yeah.
It is? Okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
You can
it's,
see only
it's
the picture, not the notes.
Very good, because because I have double screens.
Yeah, we
Well,
have full screen.
And you never know which one is showing. So catchment officers in Sweden then. So as said, my name is Matilda Wahlman and I work for the Swedish Water District Authorities, and I work in the most southern water district in Sweden, which is called South Baltic. And we have 5 water districts, and those are the ones who are implementing the European Framework Directive. So that is what I generally work with. But in WaterDrive, but also in this other project, we were and are up until the New Year's involved in a project in Sweden that is called LEVA, which stands for Local Engagement for Water. And we are 4 partners in this project, and the project is led by the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, and then the Swedish Board of Agriculture and the Swedish Federation for Farmers are also involved. And on a little side note, also the county administrative boards of Sweden. This project was handed to us from the government to try to implement or start up catchment officers in Sweden. So the project was handed to the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, and the rest of us are co-project members. So this project started in 2018, and then the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, they had this call out to Sweden, to all of the different regions and organizations, to try to find places where we could test to have catchment officers. And this ended up in that 20 pilot areas were instigated in quite scattered in Sweden, which was very good. So the focus is eutrophication and agricultural lands, while we don't have as much in the north as in the south. So the most of the pilot areas are in the south. And each color then represent one catchment officer. So some catchment officers, as you can see in the map, have several areas where they work in. For example, here to the right, there is a person who's working in 3 regions or small regions. So as said, this project came with funding. So the funds have covered these 20 pilot areas between 2019 and 2021. So the project, or the funding as is, stops now in the new year. But the working method for the catchment officers, that will continue, because luckily the catchment officers have found other means to continue. So the plan with this project was for the state or how the state looked upon it was to create local engagement and to support landowners to perform more local voluntary measures, because here it's important to highlight that all measures to prevent the runoff of nutrients from land in Sweden are made voluntarily, but not to the extent that we would like to. So this project was to test a new method than for Sweden and see if we could make more measures than we had done before. And then, of course, also the plan was to have it over several years so that the catchment officers could exchange experience and knowledge, but also incentives and obstacles. And the last two have also been very important for the agencies that are involved to learn about incentives and obstacles for local action. And all of this is summed up into a Swedish report that we have sent to the government, but anyone who speaks Swedish can read it. There is also a short English summary, which might be nice for some of you. So shortly then to the effects of catchment officers and what lessons we learned throughout this project. And here I want to note that the effects that we have seen are the effects for 2 years, so 2019 and 2020. So the effects and the results for this year, 2021, will be reported in December and January. So all the numbers here are only for 2 years. So shortly then, the catchment officers in Sweden have held over 200 meetings over these 2 years. And as a state employee, we were impressed that they have been in contact with over 1,100 unique farmers. The catchment officers have really paid off in Sweden. The state then, or the funding for the catchment officers, the 20 pilot areas, the Agency for Marine and Water Management had just less than 40 million Swedish kroner, so that is 4 million euros to give to the pilot areas, but we returned almost, or actually more than 4 times back, meaning that the pilot areas, they have applied for other type funding for measures in the environment for around 150 million Swedish kroner, which is then 15 million euros. And just a couple of words what they have been doing. We have a lot of different measures to prevent runoff from agricultural lands, and they have chosen these freely, but the highest rate of the ones that the catchment officers have chosen is to construct or plan wetlands, remeandering of different streams. They have built a lot of phosphorus dams and done a lot of ditch maintenance and then liming. And these are all quite cost effective, so it's natural that they did these ones. And to showcase a little bit about the payment in funding in Sweden, I'm gonna show you pictures of how it looks and the plans for liming and wetlands. So this is a figure of planned and performed liming and also applied funding in the middle. And what you see here is that the blue colors are the numbers for 2019, and the yellow color above is the numbers included then for 2020, but also note that the January of 2021 is involved, so it's a little bit more than a year. But what we can see here is actually that things takes time, and they do more over time. So which is not weird at all, because you have to apply for funding, you have to plan. So and they do this more, and then they can perform more afterwards. So obviously then they performed more liming the second year in action than the first year. And we're also pleased to see that they have applied for a lot of funding and are planning for more liming in the future. So it will be interesting to see how this will look for 2021. And the same can then be said for wetlands and dams. And in dams here are the small ponds and phosphorus dams are included. And here I can just shortly say that there are two applied funding in the middle, which is that we have different funding schemes in Sweden. So these could have been added together, but this comes from the Swedish reports, and then we have showcase for the different funding schemes. But as the same here, there are a lot of wetlands and dams planned, and they're planning even more. But as said, these things and constructions and also permissions take a long time to get. Often these take years. So we will look forward to all of these being built in the end. And then I will say some couple of words. I have divided the lessons learned for the catchment officers that they then reported. They reported all these numbers and what they thought about the process yearly, and also the lessons learned then for us as authorities after. And now there will be a list of things. But lessons learned for the catchment officers was that you have to be clear on which level of participation that you as an catchment officer can offer. This might differ between the areas that we have tried this work method in. So be clear on what you can and cannot do towards then the landowners, the farmers, but also towards the authorities. Because the catchment officers are in this in-between place between then farmers and authorities. Be clear that cooperation takes time, and this was a bit showcased in the planning, in the pictures that I showed before, that there are a lot of plans going on, and we will see how much will be delivered in the end. Also, of course, comes down to how much funding they will get. Always be transparent in what you do, and also what you planned. And this goes also for both be transparent towards the farmers, but also towards authorities, and kind of explain what the two sides are doing. And this, of course, goes for us as authorities as well, to be more transparent. Always have dialogue rather than information, and this is something that we as authorities also should be better at many times. Respect different levels of understanding, and this also goes for both the farmers but also authorities. Different people have different competences, so you have to be prepared of a wide area of different conversations. And also then respect the fragile process of cooperation and trust. So this comes back to the first point, where cooperation and trust, it takes time, and then it can also easily fall apart. Invest time in meetings and planning meetings. And this was, of course, a struggle during the pandemic. And I was pretty impressed that they had as many meetings, and most of them they could still have live out in nature because they were out and not inside. But still, this is very important to meet the people you are working with and understand that the different personalities are an asset, because this is a process where a lot of people are involved, also contractors and others, and all people are needed to be effective in the end. And then lastly, then of course, show good leadership and respect when you move forward with your applications and measurements. And then some short lessons learned for the authorities. Landowners, we did know this, but still it's really nice to get it on paper that landowners of different kinds, and it's more than farmers, it's also for forest owners. They want to do measures for the environment, but they often lack time, knowledge, and funding. So this is where the catchment officers come into place in Sweden, so they can often alleviate the lack of time, knowledge, and funding. Catchment officers are a catalyst on a basin scale or lower scale for the individual farmer. They create incentives for implementing measures and increase participation and legitimacy. So as I said, they are this middleman in between the farmer and the authority, which has been really helpful for both sides, I think. And then lastly, we still need to improve knowledge and also knowledge about planning local measures. So this is a continued process that we will keep on working with. And then lastly, then I want to say that I said the funding for the areas, the funding that was paid by the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, that one ends at New Year. But we have other funds for this type of work in Sweden. So most of the pilot areas, I think all actually, will continue. But I would also like to mention, since I work for the water authorities, that we have included this support team, or whatever we should call us, the 4 organizations that have led this project. We have given this task to the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management to continue the work that they have been doing in the Swedish program of measures for 2021 to 2027. If this suggestion for the POM will go through, we will know that in December. But we hope that we can continue the work that we have been doing this far. And with that, I will say thank you.
Thank you, Matilda. There are some comments in the chat room from Mikko. Respect for the work of the others is very important to remember, and thank you for your good work. That's from Mikko. And there is also from Frank. Impressing results and conclusion from Sweden.
Thanks. And it's a very long report that we have written to the government, but anyone who speaks Swedish, it's pretty good. And we will see if we can translate more of it over the next year, because I think it would be good to share.
Yes, there are some questions gathering. So there is one from Dace. What are the next steps regarding the catchment officer's work?
Well, I think the next steps are actually just to continue, because as I said, it takes a long time before the work really starts. So the first year, well, they did actually perform quite a few measures, but the second year, then 2020, you could really see that measures were being done and funds were in place. So I just hope that this continues, so more measures will be done. Yeah, so that is the simple plan. Continue the good work.
And question from Omran to Matilda. Building trust is between farmers and authority that the catchment officers represent, or between the farmers and the catchment officer himself. Is there plans to build it, or it depends on the catchment officer personality and its way of working?
Well, at this stage, I would say, as the catchment officers have been much more of a middleman, it has been trust. The focus has been trust building between the farmer and the catchment officer, him or herself. But in the end, since they often communicate with the authority, and the authority often needs to be involved when it comes down to the actual like allowances and these kinds of legal things, it comes down to building trust towards or to the authorities as well. But yeah, and of course, trust is always a personality trait. It can, some gain it easy, some not. But I think they have succeeded very well in that sense. Also, remembering that the Swedish catchment officers have been based or belong to very different organizations. So that has been impressive, that even if they have worked for the state or for the municipality or for a private company, they have still, we haven't seen that the organizational structure have meant that much, actually. So it's more down to that they can build trust anyway and explain what they do.
Yes, from Peter.
Will it be we are there, right? Will it be prolonged? More officers. So the funding from the Swedish Agency for Marine and Water Management, that funding will not be prolonged, but we have other funding which before were more directed to do the actual measure, but now it will also be expanded to include the salary for the officers or the work method that they do, which has meant that we have a couple of more catchment officers now than only the 20. So it has expanded a bit. We think that we need much more catchment officers. We have around 25 now, but it goes through rather slowly. But I can only hope that it will grow.
Yes, and a question from Peter. I understand it is as Sweden has come a long way. With the experience from Sweden, what do you think would be the most important next step to proceed with catchment officers' work on water improvement in Poland?
I'll have to answer a little bit. Even though I saw listened to the presentation, it's always difficult to compare countries because we do have different organizational structures. But I do think that the catchment officers, if they are kind of accepted amongst the farmers, it's much more easy for them, or could potentially be easier for them to handle like authorities and all of that legal stuff that is often involved or included in the work. So I think but also think long term if you can, because I think all the authorities involved in this project was pretty impressed that results came rather quickly. We wouldn't have thought so. We thought that this would take much longer time than it actually did, but still have like a 5-year plan, I would say.
There are a few other questions, but I see Sirka has her hand raised. Please, Sirka, if you have a question.
Okay, thank you, Sandis and Matilda. I would like to ask about this dialogue thing. You said that you prefer dialogue instead of information. And I'm interested to know what type of dialogue you have with the farmers or the advisors about the measures, what they ask from you. Is it the technical things or is it the efficiency? And if it's the efficiency, how they want to have the proof of the efficiency? So, please.
I think it has more to do with like when the catchment officers go out to the farmers, they don't, because we as authorities, we have ideas, but we are much more on a regional or national scale about what measures that should be done. But we don't know much in the end about the particular field or a particular stream. So this is where the catchment officers come in and can have less ideas when they talk to the farmers. So the farmers can have their own plans, and then they can talk about that. And then when it comes to efficiency, the water authorities and also I know SLU, the Swedish Agricultural University, we work a lot with measuring and counting about the efficiency of different measures. But in the end, from the Swedish perspective, we are more concerned with do something, because basically we're at the point where like anything is better than nothing, but also that some measures are more costly. So then it's a discussion about that and how much you can get funding for. So, but this should really be answered by a person who or is a catchment officer, not me, since I'm not out in the field.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Helena has written a question. Have you any plans for how many catchment officers should be needed in Sweden?
We do, or it's not scientifically proven or anything, but we have an idea that we should probably need up to 100, between 80 and 100. That is what we suggest, at least for the government to fund. And we'll see. Maybe it will more are needed, and then this is also then for basically only the south of Sweden. So it's not the whole country, since eutrophication isn't as big of a problem in the north.
Yeah. And the question from Reinhold, do catchment officers meet themselves sometimes and exchange experience?
Yes, they do. And we have also arranged this in the project. This far, we have had meetings at least once a year when they meet. But I also know that they meet amongst themselves as well, especially if they're from a certain part of the country when it's not so far to travel. They have arranged their own meetings.
And
that has been really important for them, I know, because of course they can talk to us as project leaders, but it's more interesting for them to talk to each other.
Mikko has a question also. Are the officers advising on financial management and economics, for example, drainage or production?
Yes, they are in a way. So they are the ones often helping out with the administration of implementing a measure, and also then applying for funding, which means that they have to know what it costs and how and who to, and they can suggest contractors, for example. But it's down to the farmer, of course, to decide. But yeah, they are involved in that process as well.
Okay, and there is one more question from Helena. What kind of education do you give to the catchment officers?
Yeah, this is something that we didn't actually do when we started the project, but I met the catchment officers just this week, so we had our final goodbye meeting, but we will probably meet again. But anyway, and then we have now discussed, and we talked about that we should have like an introductory course for new catchment officers. But when we started the project, it was more that some of the projects actually have, or they have already worked with this type of function for many years. So then in the beginning, it was more that the old areas, or where they have worked like this for a long time, they were teaching the new ones. Yeah. And I think we need to round off this discussion and move forward to a short break before we take Denmark.
What would we
Thank
say?
you all
10
for
minutes,
very good
Matilda?
questions. What?
How long will be the break?
I was thinking 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
So that means be back 10:40 for the Danish presentation.
Yes, so please don't leave. You can just leave the Zoom screen open and grab a coffee or get some snacks, and we will continue after 10 minutes. Thank you at the moment, and see you in a bit.
And I see, so that's good.
Yes, and I will start. Like Frank, I work at the Danish Farmers Association, and my job is to coordinate the Danish catchment officers, and I'm responsible for the training and developing the technical tools they need, and we pay their salary, and we have been doing that since 2017 when we started. Historically, and the focus of the Danish catchment officers, like Matilda said from Sweden, is to prevent the nutrient runoff to the coastal waters, and historically to do that, to make this river restoration projects has been led by the state and the local municipalities. These big projects you can see on the photo And when the state or the municipality was finished with making this project at the farmers, then the mayor or the authorities came and they opened this area up, and of course that's also very positive. But the ownership from the farmers was maybe a little bit limited. It was the state's project, and the farmers they could be happy and they could accept it, but the ownership was not as big as maybe needed. And also we had a realization that the progress, the speed of making these projects was too slow. So we had in Denmark we had to speed up. And then apart from these big wetland restoration or river restoration projects, we in Denmark we made this, directly translated we call them mini wetlands, but in English we would probably call it constructed wetlands. And it was the University of Aarhus. They made this design manual and then some principles about how to construct these constructed wetlands with the deep basins 1 meter deep and some shallow zones 30 centimeters deep. And you can see an example of one of these constructed wetlands from the drone photo at the left. And then we knew that these constructed wetlands, they would work. They would retain the nitrogen and the phosphorus. And the state made this farmers scheme with the money from the European Union, and then the farmers could apply themselves for funding for making these constructed wetlands. At that point, there was no catchment officers in Denmark, and the farmers organization, they pointed out that it would be very complex for the individual farmers to find out could they make this kind of constructed wetland and to make the application for the funding and the application for the permits. Then the state decided that they would make funding for these Danish catchment officers, and that's when the project started. All the catchment officers in Denmark, they are applied or they are employed at a farmer's advisor company, and you can see this is a map of the entire Denmark divided into these regional teams of catchment officers, and the catchment officers here was when we started there was 29 catchment officers. Some has stopped since the beginning, but they are distributed all over the country in Denmark. Now we have 22 catchment officers, and so they can help farmers throughout the country. And as I said, they are all employed at the farmers' own advisors companies. They are 50-50 funded by the Danish state and by the farmers' own money. All the farmers' money primarily from my company, the farmers' organization. And when they started, they had a background with advising as advisors within plant production or environmental measures or nature, and then we have since then been making these education and training and knowledge exchange for the farmers from the beginning and up until now. I would think 25 or 30 days of this education and training and knowledge exchange altogether, where we have been training the catchment officers in using these technical tools. You can see the GPS for measuring these constructed wetlands or the level in the landscape. We have been watching constructed wetlands and river restoration wetlands existing projects, and with entrepreneurs or contractors, we have been discussing what is possible and how the project can be done better, and been visiting field sites and discussing what would be possible to make under different circumstances. And when the catchment officers in Denmark, when they help a farmer with his project, very much they help him from the start, when he says maybe he would be interested in making such a constructed wetland, and then until the project is finished. So they facilitate very much. It's not only dissemination or information. They very much go into each project. And I have from this Danish setup, I have chosen two strengths or advantages from the setup in Denmark, and two areas where there would be potential for improvement. As I said, we have been leading this project for four and a half years, and continually we are trying to improve the ways the catchment officers work to make it more efficient. And I think one of the biggest strengths has been, and the strength is with the setup that we have chosen with the catchment officers in Denmark. And I think one of the primary, one of the most important strengths or successes is how we have utilized these communication channels that we have in the agricultural system. All the advisory companies have newsletters, and they have contact with the farmers. They have arrangements, and the catchment officers has been able to utilize all these advisory companies' communication channels. And almost all the farmers are a member of a local farmers organization, and they as well have newsletters and annual or even meeting more often, and also there the representatives of the farmers have been talking about making these constructed wetlands, and often the catchment officers has been able to make a presentation and talk about it. We have been able to send letters out to almost every farmer in Denmark who has had the possibility of making this type of constructed wetlands, so they could see on their own field in maps that we made individual, where it should be possible for them to make some of these projects. And we have been making these field days for farmers where they could come out and see some of the finished projects. So this very extensive setup we have with the advisor companies and the organizations, I think we have utilized that very much to make this awareness with the farmers that they need to work with these measures, or to be positive, and also that the farmers has a possibility themselves to make these projects. They don't just have to sit and wait for the municipality to come by and present their plans. And the other big advantage is that we have used as catchment officers the farmers' own advisors who are working at the advisory companies. And of course, one of the obvious advantages of that is that the farmers know their own advisors, so they have a trust in the advisor beforehand. But I think maybe equally or even more important is that the catchment officers, they have a knowledge that when they work with the farmers, they need to create value for the farmer. Normally when they work for the farmer, he pays their salary, so each day they are evaluated by the farmers. Will he pay for their services, or is it not valuable for him? So they are very used to think, well, what will the farmer gain if I help him with this, and listen to the farmer's needs and wishes. So everything has been very much based on the farmer's premises, and the catchment officers has been needing to listen to what will motivate the farmer to make a constructed wetlands. Will it be to have a small lake, or will it be to have something nice to look at from his house, or if he's going hunting, or anything? They have been listening to the farmer's need and what will motivate the farmer and the individual farmer. And I would say one of the biggest weaknesses with this setup, the farmers, he has paid all the expenses when he make this constructed wetland based on this design manual from the university, but that it is based on an EU farmer scheme has been quite frustrating. Of course, it's nice to get everything funded from European Union money, but at least the Danish setup for controlling how European Union money is spent is very, very strict. So you can see here, this is a check of one of the Finnish projects, and the control is very rigid. So if just one of these basins, if there's an area that is more than 15 centimeters deep or shallower than stated, then actually, and it is the employee from the control from the European Union, then he will use all the funding. It will not be possible to change the constructed wetlands or apply again. The money will be lost, and of course that's not a very motivational factor for the farmer. That maybe he gets everything paid, but maybe he loses everything and pays it himself. And it has taken a lot of all these 4 or 5 years to see would it be possible to soften these rules a little bit, or maybe differentiate the sanctions, so you won't lose everything, but maybe 5% or 10% or something. But it has been very time consuming. So we have lost some years and some goodwill by basing this on an EU subsidiaries. The other area where we are planning to make some improvement is that the catchment officers in Denmark, they have only been able to help the farmers with the constructed wetlands. They could not help the farmers with these natural river restoration wetland projects. And they have been on a tight schedule. The plan was to make 2,000 constructed wetlands at this year's New Year's Eve, and that was very, very ambitious. So they are just trying to make as many applications and projects as possible. And sometimes some of these constructed wetlands could be placed in an area where there was potential for making a big river restoration project. And the municipalities has been frustrated that the catchment officers has been so busy making small constructed wetlands, and maybe the catchment officers has been a little bit frustrated that the success parameters with 2,000 constructed wetlands was too ambitious. So there's a need for making a better coordination between the municipality, who's responsible for the big projects, and the catchment officers who are responsible for helping the farmers with the small constructed wetlands. So our thoughts about how to address this in the future years is to instead of sending out all these many letters to individual farmers and see who are interested, then we will start with a limited geography, and then first have a meeting with the municipality. Where do they see potential for making these big river restoration wetlands with synergy to retaining water from flooding and have biodiversity. So when the catchment officers and the municipality, they have a common understanding. You can see this is a small area. There would be some areas where you could make these small, big river restoration projects, wetlands, and other locations where it would be nice just to make these small constructed wetlands. Then they go out and meet the farmer at a second meeting, and then the farmer hears about what is a constructed wetland and what is a river restoration wetland, and they can express their interest in one project or the other project, and explain their knowledge about the drain is the misunderstanding or a missed potential for something, and when the catchment officer and the man from the municipality, they have this and know what the farmers are interested in doing, then they can make this catchment plan where the different types of projects are coordinated. The small constructed wetlands at the fingertips of the streams, and the bigger natural wetlands further downstream. So that is one of the major focuses in the coming years, in the following years, to make a better coordination with other types of projects and other actors. Yes, and that's my presentation.
Maybe somebody would like to ask some question. So please unmute, or if you're shy, you can write it in the chat room.
I can ask a question then. I have a question about this very high goal that the state put up for the catchment officers with, what was it, 2,000 constructed wetlands. I was wondering if it would have been better or worse to have a lower goal. What do you think? Is it good to have a goal that you can't reach, or like the
needed goal. We calculate how much do we need to reduce the nutrient load to the coastal waters, and it was necessary. It was necessary to make an ambitious goal. I guess to make the farmers see if they could do something voluntarily with these constructed wetlands, then it would not be necessary to make or for the state to make as much legislation for the cropped areas. So I think it was good for making motivation among the farmers and among the catchment officers, but also we need to learn as we are working and adapt the method and the communication and the coordination.
Thanks.
There is also a question from Reinhold. The municipalities are responsible for WFDA or Natura 2000 or RDP. Who coordinates the municipalities?
We have in Denmark we have 98 municipalities, and we have 23 big river catchments. So in each of these 23 river catchments, we have a coordinating group with the different municipalities who are making a plan for this catchment, and then afterwards each municipality is responsible for making each part of the mutual goal. So we have coordination, but between the municipalities in these river basins, and we believe that the state is planning for the coordination in the future, not only to be among the municipalities, but also the Farmers Association and other what is it called, stakeholders.
I can see Frank has his hand raised, so please, Frank.
Yes, I just have a comment so you can understand what's going on in Denmark, because in the past, the nature agency and the municipalities have taken care of wetlands, the large wetlands, and rewetting organic soils, but there has been no funding for the agricultural advisory service, and we didn't have catchment officers. But I think we see a change now that these the advisory service, the municipality, and the agencies now more can, if we get the funding for the advisory service in the future, then they can start to work more together. I think that has been one of the main problems in Denmark. So the catchment officers have had the main focus on constructed wetlands until now, but I think the next year we'll see a change here, because we have to take between 50 to 100,000 hectares out of production on the organic soils. So there is a change now, but it has taken very, very long time to convince the Danish state that the farmers and the farmers advisors should have a role here. We have two projects where we have shown that they really have an effect, as Simon showed before, that it's quite important that you can't buy trust. So we can see that it's quite important that the agriculture advisory service is a part of this, and they have not been that in the past. That was my comment.
Also, there is one question from Peter. He wanted to specify, when did Denmark start with the catchment officers?
We started in 2017, and actually my colleagues at my company, they have been interested in bringing catchment officers to Denmark earlier on, but it was when we had this new environmental scheme with these constructed wetlands that we had the opportunity. Before the state wasn't interested. They said that the municipalities and was running the business okay until then. But when we had these new constructed wetland, and it was the farmers' task to utilize this environmental scheme, we had an opportunity to bring the catchment officers to Denmark. So that's also the reason that it has been so fragmented or limited, the responsibility of the Danish catchment officers, because we have had this set up with the municipalities running the river restoration wetlands and the catchment officers focusing on the constructed wetlands. So in the future this will be more integrated. But it has taken some time to realize that it's not so good to run these two types of projects without coordination.
Yes, thank you. Maybe some other questions from the participants. If not, then I think, Matilda, we could continue.
If not, I just want to open up if there is anyone who has a question to any one of the presenters, then, or especially if you have any comparative questions, then we could highlight that now. Doesn't seem like it. Then I will also invite Frank.
There's one raised hand from Staffan. Staffan, please.
Ah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I wonder about the. I mean, it's a difficult job to be a catchment officer, so I wonder about the competences and experiences, and what are the training needs for the catchment officers? Thank you.
Was this
from a
question
Swedish perspective? I think it was to everyone, or wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, it was to everyone.
So I can just start a little bit from the Swedish perspective. We have noted, so the catchment officers in Sweden, they do have very different backgrounds, and then it is a little bit dependent on if they have, for example, an agricultural or farming background, or if they're biologists or more that side. What they need to learn then differs between the people. But so I would say in our case, the best have been to mix those two. So they do know the farming side, but also then the nature or more biology side. So we will try to figure out how to that one can learn the other way, and vice versa. Yeah. Denmark, Finland, Poland.
I can see a hand raised from Simon. Maybe you have some follow-up information on this question.
Our experience is that the background is maybe, or the educational background is maybe not as important as their experience within work. We have, as I said, some have been advisors within plant production, others in environmental issues or nature projects, and of course it's also a little bit similar. But the biggest advantage is that they have between 5 and 20 years of experience with working directly for the farmers. So they are used to talk to the farmers, and they are interested in farming or the results of farming, and they are used to create. They know they have to create value for the farmers. So people who has has some years experience with working for the farmers, and then the field of how they help the farmers is not as important as just talking to farmers every day for several years. And of course I know that's quite an intensive education also, if you have to do it just to get a catchment officer.
Yes, Fred?
Yeah, I agree. What we noted was that it comes down a lot to the social skills, actually, of the catchment officers. But that and with everything else, the more you've done it, the better you become. So that is also why you need time for these types of processes.
My name is Piotr Dabrowski. I'm instead of Janusz. The surname is exactly the same, but the first name is different. If I may add something, what is concerning our viewing on the catchment officers' qualifications. Within the next 2 weeks, we'll organize the training course for catchment officers in Poland, and of course it's just the beginning. It's early stage of this process, but we will try to first of all we'll try to learn them about some legal regulations concerning water regulations in Poland, then of course some technological aspects. So we would like to also train them how to get the information from local authority, from whom then they can get the information, etc., etc. That's what is our plan for the next few weeks. But let's see what will be in the future. We'll try to contact also some other institution. What are their expectations from the catchment officers in Poland?
Thank you, Piotr. Frank, I can see your hand also raised, please.
Yes, I have a comment. I have been working with this really many years, and I can tell you that you don't have the content in one person who can fix all this. The first step is that you can talk with the farmers, but I'm not an engineer, and I think you are very close, more close on an engineer when you have to go into the construction. So you really need people who can different things, talk with the farmers, know what the schemes, how they are working, but also you need people who have the skills in GIS and can construct it. So you are absolutely sure that you don't get backwater in the farmers' drainage systems. So there is you can't find a person who can cover it all. That's in my eyes impossible. So you have to make, as Mikko say, these teams who can work together to solve the challenges. I don't, maybe Simon, he has a lot of skills, but I think it's hard to find these kind of people who have all the skills when you're working with topic like this.
I agree, absolutely.
There's also one question from Peter. What do you think should be done as the next step on the catchment officer work on a Baltic Sea level, or maybe what should be a vision? I suppose it was the Simon. Simon, maybe you could answer the question? Or was it
the written question?
Yes. Peter, could you specify, was it to all the participants, panelists, or was it to Simon?
Well, I think it was more to all. I personally, I look from a Baltic Sea level, and I mean, it is very interesting work with the catchment officers. You see great progress, but it's still kind of in its infancy, I guess. So it would be interesting from the project that's worked so long with this now to see what do you think could be like an interesting next step. Is it, I don't know, should HELCOM be involved? Should it be, is it funding? Is it better cooperation? Or I don't know, because it seems like a very interesting topic. So we're interested to see what you think should be the next step in this.
Yes, please. Anyone could reflect on the question?
From my perspective, I just generally think that we've never had too much funding. So funding is always a key issue and if that would be, because now we're in Sweden, we're using funds from the EU and from the state. So if we would have had more options, that would also be good, I think, to level up the process, as long as it is somewhat clear at least where and how the funding can be used. And when it comes to coordination, I think just spontaneously, we have very different, as said, organizations in the different Baltic countries. But some lessons can still, of course, be learned in between the countries. But otherwise, there are very, I think, nation state-wise processes that needs to be done. Then we can compare in a couple of years, I think.
Thank you, Matilda. Frank, please.
I think you should read the conclusions from the case areas in the WaterDrive. That is one of the main problem is the funding, long-term funding, but also consequence from the government to fund the measures and approve the measures. And it is, in my eyes, it's a very complicated process So I think you should read some of the conclusions from WaterDrive. We have pointed out 10 steps that you should, as government or state, should before implementation happens. So, and I think that is based on the work in Denmark, Finland, and Sweden, and Poland, and Lithuania, and that we are on different stages. But the main problem is that this long-term funding of measures of catchment officers and improvement of these measures. So the farmers are not going to make measures that don't work, that don't make sense. So the scientists in all the countries are quite important.
Yes, Staffan, you were next with the raised hand.
Yeah, it's a good question about next steps, and it's like Frank and Matilda says, it's big differences between the countries. So I think this is maybe an opportunity to ask someone from, let's say, Latvia or Lithuania participating in the in this meeting to comment on Peter's questions. Let's say, I don't know if Sanda or anyone else from Latvia would like to. You are starting up the process now with catchment officers, and in Denmark it has been running for several years. Sweden has done some work for some years. But how are you thinking in let's say Latvia and Lithuania? What are the next steps?
Zanda?
Yeah, here, hello, here's Zanda from Farmers Parliament from Latvia. And now you, Stefan, are provoking me a little bit. Since you know...
I like it.
Yeah, but you know what is situation in Latvia now with our pilot case. And that's why I'm saying that you are provoking me. It's really hard to answer because probably at this moment we have set another priorities, but theoretically we see that catchment officers would be of help for water quality improvement. But probably we have to few steps back and improve our cooperation between different involved parties or different involved organizations in water management or different institutions and also farmers. We have to find a common playing ground or be ready to step in the common playground, and then we can go further for strategic change and to go for some catchment officers or some specific advisors role in water management. This is how I see, because yeah, we tried in WaterDrive with the Jelgava local municipality, but we are so far as we are. And we see that there is plenty of the work should be done still to start some of the service like this. This is from my perspective, but maybe my colleagues think differently, but this is how I see the situation at this moment.
Okay, great, Sandra. Thank you very much.
It is not great, Stefan. We still.
Yeah, but it's the fact of the realities also. But do we have anyone from Lithuania participating that would like to comment on the development of catchment officers in Lithuania? Okay.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Thank you.
But if I may add something from the Polish side, may I? because WaterDrive is coming to the end, right? But our organization, CDR, is also involved in the project called WaterAgri. If I don't know if you ever heard, it's not of course, it's not the same project with WaterDrive, but it's some areas it's quite similar. So absolutely, from our point of view, we'll be continuing this effects from the WaterDrive, trying to implement them through the funds, for example, allocated also in WaterAgri or in some other projects. So absolutely, we'll be continuing this idea, but because it's in the ministry, they're absolutely aware that the water problem in Poland is one of the most important. That's what I would like to add from Polish side.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, we have a raised hand from Peter.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you very much for all your answers. It's very interesting to listen to, and I'll make sure to read the conclusions even more thoroughly. I wonder, because if a sense I get is that there could be, is it possible to say kind of a rule of thumb that if you set off a certain amount of funding for local measures, you should also kind of have some type of advisor for it? So you could say, like, I don't know, if you set off X amount of money for that, you also need an advisor to make sure that it's being applied, because that's kind of how I see one of the key things with these catchment advisors, that you need somebody who's at the local level and making sure that to advise the farmers of what funding is there and what measures are relevant and what you could get funding for. Is that is that something you would share, or am I actually misunderstanding things?
From a Swedish perspective, I think that would be a great idea to have a little bit more of a some money goes, and it doesn't need to be a lot for the catchment officers and their coordination, and then most of the money then for the actual measures. This far in Sweden, this all the money is up for grabs, so it's more first come first serve. So, but as said, then from the Swedish this far, the rule of thumb, we will know more over time, but for now it's then like a fourth or a fifth of the money is the cost of the catchment officers. I don't know how it looks like in Denmark.
Simon, please.
Well, I think when the constructed wetlands that we work with, and also with the big river restoration wetlands, all the legislation around the setup is very complex, and it is very time-consuming to apply for the funding and to coordinate the projects and to apply for the necessary permits. So there is a lot of facilitation, and I agree that every time you have €5 for making the project, you need to have €1 for facilitating. But there could be other types of project, biodiversity projects, maybe, where the complexity is not as big, and you could facilitate them cheaper. But that's also with these types of projects that we focus on is also 1 to 5. I think that would be fair.
And if we forward that question also to Piotr in Poland, what yes. do you think? Yeah. Do you think you need to combine, if you are supporting investments in environmental measures, do you need to have this advice and support function also?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Shortly speaking.
Yeah.
Frank, I can see your hand raised, please.
Yeah, I just have a simple comment that you have to decide what measures you are going to do before you start up with the catchment officers, because they have to know what they are going to do. And in my perspective, the farmers are not doing so many environmental measures without funding. So you have to, otherwise, if you start a discussion with farmers without money, it's very hard for you. So the state have to decide what kind of measures that should be implemented. I think that is quite important. So they have a huge decision. The decision makers have to do that work first. Otherwise, they a waste of time with the catchment officers, in my eyes.
Absolutely.
Maybe there are some other questions, follow-ups.
Otherwise, I think we had a couple of questions to the group as such, but I think we will. I think there are too few minutes left, and I think the discussion was more more important than for us to ask questions to this whole group from the project. So if no one has. Or if Frank, if you want to ask something specific to the group.
I would just say thank you very much to all of you, but I think we should take the last minutes with this Mentimeter. It don't take so long time question. I think it could be quite interesting to see see after all this talk what is the opinion between us.
Yeah, so we should be able in 2 minutes.
But yeah, so thanks a lot to all of you for telling about what's going on around the Baltic Sea, and I think we have a lot of work in the future and education of catchment officers. And I think it's really good we have this communication between us, and we now know each other much more. So I'm sure that we will keep in touch in the future.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
so that is one of the good things with Interreg projects, that we learn each other to know. But please, if you have a few minutes, try to answer these 3 questions we have done. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, and then we will take them back to the project, which would be nice.
Yeah.
And there is a link sent for.
So in the chat room,
so everyone finds it. So you can just click it and answer.
So the first question you can see is, do you think a service like catchment officers, water advisors could be important for the implementation of measures in your country? So you can value them by 1 to 10. And by 1 is not important, and 10 will be very important. And we have 11 first answers already. And this is the average value. Mm-hmm. 14 answers at the moment.
We are 20, but maybe we can take the next question. And if you don't think the question applies to your country, of course, don't answer.
Did you get the answer from me, from Piotr? Did you get?
You can probably see that afterwards.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can't. We can only see that someone has answered.
Yes. If you
quite high.
It's anonymous.
If you answer the question, then there should be in this result. So, and in the chat room, you can find the second question already. So how big obstacle do you consider short-term financing of catchment officers or water advisors would be or is in your country? So 13 answers, 14. And
I think the conclusion matches the conclusions in WaterDrive.
Good for the project.
Yeah.
And the third question you can also find in the chat. Please open the link. And if you got a catchment officers or water advisors tomorrow in your country, what they then know what to do? Would they know what to do? Either they won't know anything at all, or they will fully know their responsibilities.
It tells that there is something to work with still.
Yeah, definitely. And also for, I mean, also for the two countries that do have catchment officers, not even in our countries, they know what to do. So that's a good lesson.
Yes, and Matilda, should we put on the final question?
Yes, I can't remember which question you. Oh, that one. Yes. Right.
And the last question you can also find in the chat room. Please open this link and just answer one of these options. How long time do you think new catchment officers need to become ready and know what to do? So less than a year, 1 year, 2 years, or more than 2 years. So the majority is for the answer 2 years.
There is a quick hope.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I think it's really good to have these questions.
Yeah, it's good for the project.
Yeah, it is.
So I also then, I just want to thank everyone, and also that you stayed now 6 extra minutes. and we will take this back, the results from this in our reporting. So thanks to everyone, and also especially to the presenters today.
I will pass it to Janusz.
Thank you very much, Matilda and Sandis and Frank. So it's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.